So far in this video series, I've talked about how when we are world building, we're trying to represent a society at a given place at a given time. To start off on the right foot, we ought to decide the world's scope, its sequence of events, bringing us to the world's point of the present, and from whose perspective an audience learns details about the world. Then I discussed how I use the four structures of governance, economics, social relations, and cultural influences to describe the social forces at play within the society of the world, which help to shape characters' attitudes and belief systems. If you understand these concepts, then you're ready to start the collaborative world building process. While you can apply all of these concepts to your individual world building projects, all the classes I teach focus on collaborative world building, or building worlds with two or more people. Why? Because our imaginations are fueled by our experiences, where we come from, where we've been, our hobbies, our habits, our belief about how our world works, the stories we've read or watched, and the ones we've made ourselves. No one has the same identical life experiences, and no two people look at the world in the exact same way. When we begin any world-building project, our imagination subconsciously draws from all of this, but our experiences and imaginations are also limited. Individually, we can't have seen and done and thought it all. When you work on a collaborative world-building project, you benefit from being able to draw on other people's experiences and imaginations and blend them with your own. This can take your ideas in new and unexpected directions, and if you are working with other good collaborators, you will wind up with a more nuanced, multidimensional world than you might have come up with on your own. For groups new to the collaborative world-building process, the best number of participants is usually a group of 4 or 5. I've run workshops with as many as 25 people building the same world, but that takes a lot of management. 4 or 5 people provides a good diversity of ideas and experiences, yet it's still pretty easy to make group decisions and move the project forward. So this video is going to quickly cover some strategies and best practices for collaborative world-building projects based on what I've seen from my near decade of running world-building workshops in classrooms, conferences, and conventions. Number 1, be a good collaborator. That mostly means being flexible. Rarely is one idea the only one that will work well or be interesting. And think about the ways that new ideas can be blended with the ones the group has already agreed upon. Number 2, build from simple and broad to complex and specific. What I see all the time in collaborative world-building projects is that a group leader has a very specific idea or story they want to tell, and they want to build a world to tell that specific story. This usually winds up alienating the other collaborators who have different interests and have their own stories they want to tell. If you work from simple to complex, broad to more specific, your world will offer an infinite amount of storytelling potential that will keep everybody interested in the project and working together. Number 3, identify what you want to include and what you want to avoid in the world. In an earlier video, I suggested listing out features of different genres that the group could use to decide what to incorporate. This works in reverse, too, where the group can decide on things they don't want in their world. Oftentimes, people are tired of struggles relating to gender and race in their actual lives, and they don't want that in their creative spaces, too. If you or another collaborator doesn't want sexism or racism to be a prominent feature of your world, it's by no means required. There are plenty of other ways of creating interesting social tensions. Number 4. Use the yes and approach. This idea comes from improv comedy, and it's the idea that you should add on to the ideas people offer up rather than rejecting them outright. While some ideas might not be compatible at all and thus non-starters, it can cause people to get frustrated if all their ideas are repeatedly shot down. Remember, our world has all kinds of minority opinions, fringe groups, and conspiracy theories. So a good yes and approach is to add qualifiers. Say, most people believe X, but some people believe Y. That allows for all kinds of divergent viewpoints and ideas from left field to emerge that maybe don't align with the generally accepted truth of the world. Number 5. Watch out for assumptions and generalizations. Our tendency for dealing with a complex world is to fall back on generalizations, but very rarely is any group of people a monoculture. So beware of making broad generalizations about people based on their gender, race, belief system, nationality, or any other category. This is true too for making aliens or non-human species in your world. It's usually more interesting if other species are just as complex and diverse as the human species. Number 6. Making decisions and moving the project forward is obviously more productive than quibbling over possibilities and endless brainstorming. Honestly, this is a big one that bogs groups down, and really, everyone in the group needs to be watching out for this. Every final decision cascades into other decisions that help bring the world into clearer and clearer focus. Oftentimes, idea A isn't much better than idea B, C, or D, and you can get hung up on debating the perfect option forever. Develop a method for snappy decision-making and tie-breaking. It can also spare feelings if, rather than debating or voting, you just let the fates decide. Roll a die, flip a coin, draw a random card to decide which direction to go, and then go with it and don't look back. Some groups I know have set timers to limit how long they will spend on any given decision, so that's something you might try too. Number 7, plan out the project, including stopping points, and stick to it. Project bloat is a real problem and one that people working in the creative industries literally can't afford. My classes follow a pretty rigid schedule of due dates and word counts to ensure things keep moving forward, and I also chart out the date of transitioning from one world building stage to the next. Being explicit about what needs to be done and by when also prevents people from just going off and doing their own thing. Number 8, follow the steps outlined in these videos and the book, beginning with the foundation and following through to catalog creation and eventually storytelling. No exaggeration, one of the most frequent comments on my end-of-semester reflection essays from students this past semester was students saying they would have paid closer attention to each step and followed them in order. I didn't create this system to control people's imaginations, but rather to help things move along with minimal confusion and avoiding confrontations between contributors. If it helps, remember that I'm not just some jerk spouting random advice on the internet. I'm some jerk with a PhD in creative writing who specializes in writing instruction, and I've got a lot of experience running world-building workshops, so listen to this advice and trust in the process. So most of all, I want your world-building projects to be fun and not frustrating. Be patient with each other and generous with each other's ideas. A collaborative world-building project will open your eyes to other possibilities you wouldn't have seen previously, and you can and should bring those perspectives back to your individual world-building projects too. In the next video in this series, it's on to actual writing. I'll be talking about the meta-narrative, or the story of the world, and how to get started writing it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.